10 things that people dislike about Christians.
So how exactly would you define the word empathy? Would you say if I said the word caring, you care, is that more empathy or sympathy?
So when you say lay your burdens down at the foot of the cross,
Yes.
like what's being said, what do they mean?
Right.
Like what does that look like?
Right. What does it look like for our response to God's love and his grace for us?
That's what these conversations are. We don't have the language or the box that we can put God in to contain him in his love.
Right.
And we'll never maybe fully understand it, but through conversations like this, we grow in our understanding.
Hey man, you want to talk about God?
Cory Jones.
You hear me well?
I can. Can you hear me well?
I can.
Oh.
Not that this is where we should start,
Yeah.
but I was going through and I did ask the alien bot
Yes.
to give me
Wait. Do you just
some-
call it an alien bot?
yeah.
We didn't mean
Extraterrestri-
that. If you ever take over the world, we love you. You're awesome. Thank you for all your help.
Good call. To tell me 10 things that people dislike about Christians. And I got to be honest, I read the list right away. This is why you were using the laboratory.
Yes.
Is it laboratory or lavatory?
If
you're in the bathroom. Lavatory.
Lavatory.
I read through the list and I was like, you know what? I think that I'm in the clear.
So none of those things.
I don't think they really would.
You
People that know me, I don't think that they would apply.
Okay.
Do you want me to read them to you?
Follow-up question. What about people who don't know you?
I mean, they would be painting with the broader brush of like, this is why we dislike some Christians.
Right. Oh, yeah. Read me the
You wanna
list.
read it?
Read me the list.
Hypocrisy,
Okay.
obvious reasons.
Yep.
Intolerance,
Mm-hmm.
perceived as being like closed-minded.
Right.
Judgmentalism,
Judgmentalism.
feel like Christians are
Okay.
too quick to judge others.
Yep.
Yep. Anti-science.
Yep.
Which,
Right.
not us.
Right.
Super nerds.
Super nerds.
Science nerds.
Right. I love physics.
Wealth and materialism.
Really?
Putting a lot of emphasis on wealth and material possessions, which is kind of
Interesting.
like not what you would find in the Gospels. Like
correct.
give away everything you have and
Right.
follow me kind
Right.
of. It's not great there.
I think it's really interesting that, like, obviously Chat GPT, like, assembled this list from somewhere,
Mhm.
from various sources.
Sure.
And that people don't like that Christians have wealth or have material things. Is that what it's saying?
No, it's saying that people think that Christians put too much emphasis
Oh, okay.
on wealth and material possessions.
Okay.
Which,
Interesting. Yeah.
homophobia and transphobia. I think that
Okay.
probably a lot of Christians deserve that one.
Right.
Political conservatism,
Yes.
ignorance,
Oh, just ignorance in general.
not us.
Yep.
They were uneducated and lacked critical thinking skills.
Wow. Uneducated. They went straight for you're stupid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
This is hate speech. Just kidding. Discrimination.
Yep.
Criticized for discriminating certain groups, such as women,
Mhm.
people of different races and ethnicities,
Mhm.
and non-Christians,
Mhm.
and fundamentalism,
Mhm.
being divisive or
Mhm.
extreme, and or harmful.
Okay. So check this out. So, all right, hear me out on this. Okay. So, a lot of Christians, 100%, fall into something on that list,
Mhm.
or multiple things
Sure.
on that list, right? And, I think that, like, some of those things are warranted, or
Mhm.
all of them could be warranted one way or another.
Sure.
However, okay, so yesterday we were at church, and Jason Howard, our pastor, he asked this question of, what does God really want from us?
Mm-hmm.
What is he looking for? What does he want from you? Right? And he gave this example about how a lot of people, not necessarily everyone, but a lot of people would say, God wants me to act a certain way or be a certain way, like be a good person.
A behavior is something they can see.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we can talk about what God actually wants from us in a second. But do you think that maybe the sources that this list came from, maybe they also have that idea of like, if you are a Christian, if you have a relationship with God, then it means you have to act a certain way. And then
yeah, but I don't think that I necessarily like that's unwarranted.
Right.
Because I think that specifically, I would say like the Western Christian church in America has kind of portrayed that, as in, because like it's almost, you're not known for what you do, you're known for what you don't do, which I think is a really negative way of thinking. But like I think that's a big part of how we form our identity, even thinking about coming up. This is who I am because I wear these clothes, I listen to this music, I do these things, I don't do these things. So it's like it's an easy way to kind of put yourself in a container.
Right.
And I think that maybe Christians took an easier way out and saying like, well, this is a black and white kind of way to know that you're in our camp or you're the other. And then a lot of the people that we've made the other have looked at it and said, whoa, I see a lot of the same behaviors.
Yeah.
And when you first said, you could look at this list and say, a lot of Christians fall into one of these things or multiple. I think we could zoom out even further and say that a lot of people fall into these things. I don't think this is a Christian list. I think this is what people don't like, or the chat bot is saying this is what people generally don't like about other people, is if you're say one thing, do another. If you always are like kind of down somebody, like looking at everything that, if I look at everything you do and I kind of have a side eye, or if I look at everything my spouse does and always have a that's not the right way to do it. Like, it's not enjoyable to be around those people because you're always feeling judged by them. Nothing is ever good enough. I don't think I'm not trying to be defensive, but I think that this is a thing that these traits are not great in anyone, and will generally cause people to not like you.
Just in general.
Yeah, I think it's like the scripture says, like he who has friends is himself friendly. And I think it really boils down to like that simple of a thing, that nobody would like these traits in anyone that they would associate with. I don't think it's a...
So I would love to go a certain place with this, but we're not going to. And I'll tell you why. Because what I would actually love to have a conversation on, but I don't think we should have it yet, is a conversation on people feeling persecuted about some of these things and what it really boils down to. And then even, going and looking at persecution in the Bible throughout history. And I don't feel like we should have that conversation because we're white males in America. Yeah. To be completely honest with you.
Because there's two ways you can go with it. You could go from like, there are a lot of people that are in the church that'd be like, because people look at this way, the church is being persecuted for this. And then you could flip it the other side and say like, well, what about the person in the LGBTQ community?
Correct.
Do you think they feel persecuted by you?
And that's why I would love to have a conversation about that. I just don't think that we are the right people to have that by ourselves. We should have someone else on.
Yeah. And I literally just typed this in 10 seconds before we started as wonder what it will say.
Right. But now we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
But I think that this does kind of bring us into something, because something that I think that you and I have always talked a lot about, and I think something that is very interesting to both of us, and kind of something we thought would be something cool to talk about, is the context of certain things in the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And even right then, it was kind of like, what is the context or the perspective of persecution, and where does that actually lie, and where does it actually start? And, you can look at people in the Bible, Paul going to jail, all of these things as being persecuted.
Yeah.
Or you can look at somebody telling you that your opinion or how you live your life or what you do is wrong, and that is now persecution. And I'm not necessarily saying that one is worse than the other.
Right. Well, there's a line, I think, because while not everybody's experience is the same or should be considered equal.
Right.
I'm not saying that at all. There's a level of empathy I think you can reach with the understanding of the worst thing that ever happened in your life. No matter what that thing is, it's still the worst thing that you've ever experienced or that's ever happened in your life.
Right.
Not that holds a candle necessarily or is close to an experience of somebody else.
Right.
That on both sides, I think it could be easy to like look out or look into or across, I don't know, and say like, well, your experience isn't as valid as mine. Your persecution isn't as valid as somebody that, was eaten by lions or something like that. But still individually, like that still could be like the worst persecution you've ever experienced. Right. Even if it was somebody saying that like, I don't know.
I don't like you.
I don't like you.
Right.
You're a Christian. That's dumb.
Right.
Or you're you're poor. That's dumb. I don't know. You're from this side of town. Like,
right.
I mean, that's like a weird topic, and it's kind of like not triggering. That's not a word.
I mean, it is a word.
I mean, it is a word.
Semantically, it's not a word.
Yeah. But thinking about like in those moments throughout our lives, like there are words that are used toward us about things that we have no control over. And the impact that can have in like one, defining you as a person, but also it kind of like, that's what the word now means.
Right.
I don't know how like real we want to get on this. Like we can use it or we can not, but there's growing up in like, the 90s and stuff and being in a small, predominantly white town. I remember a word that like, it was just thrown around, and I don't use the word now. I'm like, but it's like, it's a word that starts with F and is describing people of a certain like sexual orientation.
Yes.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Do you want me to say it? No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to say it.
I'm not trying to get canceled this early.
No, I mean, it's not
In fact, while we're recording this, by the way, we crossed 500 followers on the Kingdom Empowered Instagram, which is like a first milestone. And so like, we're just getting started. I don't want to get canceled yet. Right. I'm sure at some point we will be, honestly.
Yeah.
Hopefully
by, Would you rather be canceled by the mainstream religious idea, or would you rather be canceled by secular views?
My real honest to God answer is that I would love either one.
Yeah.
Because that's what this whole podcast and what the entire thing that we're doing is. We're trying to start conversations about things where a lot of people end conversations. And so if we end up talking about something that a lot of people from this side or that side or your side or my side or whatever it is don't like, then as long as we are not saying something like blasphemous, then I'm okay with it.
Saying something from a place of love.
Yeah.
Like if my intention is to be a jerk.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying something that's completely ridiculous because I'm like, I don't care about anybody thinks of me. Cancel me. Like you're a butthead.
Right. No, but I think if we did, then it would be because one of us or somebody on the podcast or something said something that what I think would happen in the world is that some people would view that and go, oh my gosh, they shouldn't do what they're doing. And then some people are also going to be there looking at it and going, wow, somebody was actually real and said that.
Yeah.
And so, and hopefully people on both sides or whichever side, like I don't want it to be this two-sided thing.
No,
and I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
But hopefully with something like that, we would make people think.
Yeah. And ultimately, if we make a mistake and do something that's like, we should always be the people that come back and like revisit it, and then talk about it and say like, "Hey, this is maybe I said this was not cool. I didn't consider how this would make somebody else feel." And like ultimately, like I do believe we're called to care about how other people feel,
I agree,
and have empathy.
By the way,
anyway,
can we go back to the story?
Yeah,
but the word that starts with an F.
Yeah,
let's go back to that story.
Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah. But that was a word that today means something very different than it meant at the time that I grew up, or at least in the bubble of my experience, a very limited bubble. You were called that word just because people were just making fun of you for dropping a pass, for missing a layup, doing something like that. People be like, "That's stupid. That's supposed to be easy. You're a..."
Right.
And I remember very specifically being in college the first time, like leaving home and being exposed to people outside of my bubble that were different and came from different experiences, and playing a game, like one night hanging out actually with my brother and doing something, or Cody did something, and I called him that word, meaning you just made a bad play or turn or whatever, not meaning. And I remember there was who I would call now a friend in the room that was homosexual, and I remember the look on his face when I just uttered that word with like a lot of like frustration, and like and I just remember being like, "Oh no, not you, him." He's not you. And it was just, I don't know what it was. Just it was kind of a life-changing moment of like realizing that like where I came from and my experience and the language that was used to describe a certain behavior, right, meant one thing and was used not in a healthy way, even in either context, but how stepping outside of my limited bubble and behaving that way or saying those things, like how it just had an impact on somebody else that like ultimately like totally like thankfully we were able to have a conversation afterwards, and I was able to learn and get understanding. But like for a lot of times like that could have just been the end of the relationship, and don't even start to talk about like thinking about like your testimony and you representing what Christ looks like on the earth when you act that way, like you're just throwing a huge negative experience, a roadblock, potentially something that just eliminates a relationship just by talking in a way that's like,
and that's
uneducated,
one of those examples of where like when that happened to you, it was just a word. You were just in the moment. It
doesn't
was
make
what
it right,
was.
but
no,
it
right.
was.
But in that moment,
but
to him, that could have felt like persecution.
Correct.
Right, which is
for sure
where the whole thing came from, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I think that that's so interesting, and I think it's really hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone else who has gone through things that you haven't. It's hard to be there, and it's hard to gain all of that understanding, and which is funny because I said I don't want to talk about persecution without someone else here.
Yeah.
But without like another viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
And now we're just...
I don't even know. Yeah, I think that we can continue a little bit on it without even thinking like labeling it as persecution.
Right.
But it's this idea of like, of empathy. That word's been said a few times now. Yeah. And like, what is empathy and how do you get it? We didn't plan to get that question at all. But I think like that's what people don't like about other people is a lack of empathy in general.
Right.
And if you look at Christians, be like, those Christians, they don't have any empathy for us because we're the other to them.
Right. So how exactly would you define the word empathy?
In its simplest terms, I would say empathy is being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's not sympathy, which is saying, I'm sorry for you.
Right.
I'm sorry. I would say empathy is being able to acknowledge somebody's experience and then imagine yourself in that experience and how you would react or how you would feel.
Right. Would you say if I said the word caring, you care, is that more empathy or sympathy?
I think empathy.
Okay.
I think sorry is really cheap. I think saying you're sorry is generally the lowest form of trying to build a bridge or anything.
Sorry for bringing it up. Sorry, man.
Yes, it doesn't mean much to me.
Right, obviously.
No, I mean, because you can throw it as like, okay, whatever. We tell our kids, say you're sorry.
Right.
And it's like, we grow up thinking that like sorry is the thing I have to say so I can move on to my next project, my next game. I want to play again. It's like, telling your mom you're sorry for smacking her,
Right.
or saying shut up, or whatever it is you did, and you're just like, sorry, and you move on. But there's nothing, if we, the other side of that, told our kids, like, sat them down and said, like, this is the behavior, this is what you did. You just hit your mom.
Right.
Your mom loves you, you know that?
Right.
Imagine how that makes her feel.
Right.
The person she loves most just hit her.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like those, like, we don't have time to have those conversations.
Right.
So we just say you're sorry, move on.
Right.
But if we actually took the time and we taught empathy, because that was going to be my follow-up, is like, to that question of how do we get empathy?
Mm-hmm.
There is no quick way
No.
of getting, there's no, I don't know, separate thing to get empathy. Empathy is only gained through experience.
Yes, I agree.
Do you agree with that?
I do, but I've always hated any form of like I really don't like it when people are like, oh, to get trust you have to, or to get like respect you have to give it.
Okay.
Like,
why? You don't like authority.
Actually,
no, I'm just
no. I mean, I don't like authority, correct, but the reason I don't like things like that is because I think the world in general would be a better place if you just started at a certain level and then you could break it instead of having to start at a lower place and then earn it.
Man,
it could lead to more problems.
Yeah.
Generally, I don't like it when you have to give something to get something.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really where I was going. And
Yeah.
But empathy, I feel like you do need to give it to get it. In most cases, I feel like it has to be a very special person to give empathy to someone else, to care to someone who's not responding to that at all, or not giving back at all. Like if there's just somebody who's super, super, super ignorant, right? Then typically the people that they're going to bring around them are going to be also the same ignorant people. And so for somebody to go and try to have that conversation with them and care, like it's going to be very hard.
So even outside of having a conversation, take it to like a more base everyday kind of level. And the easiest example I have of that like right now is like the idea of driving. So in traffic, people sometimes fly up on your butt, running around, and you think like you're driving like a jackass. Sorry, that's the first time I swore on this podcast.
That's fine.
Okay.
I really don't care at all.
Okay. Because I've said butt several times, which anybody that knows me will be like, he doesn't really say butt.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think that we should like cuss every other word, but I also think both of us use language, and the whole purpose of this is to be real.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect, and shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Okay. So some people like they drive like crazy fast. They're like, somebody's coming up on you when you're in traffic. It's like, why are you driving? Like my answer is like, you're being a jerk. Like think of all the people you're endangering because you're driving like this.
Right.
That's like the default reaction is to look at something that way. It's like, you're just being selfish.
And then on the flip side of that, if you're trying to merge over and somebody like flashes their lights at you and like brakes and gives you room, then you're like, oh, thank you so much. Like,
that's being courteous.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
So the empathy part of that is, which goes against the default, would be for me to respond from a perspective that says, I don't know what's going on in your life. I look at that behavior and be like, you're being a jerk and you're being selfish. But the reality is, I don't know what's going on. Is it possible that you just received a call and your wife is in a car accident, is somewhere is hurting, your kid is like anything? Is it possible that something happened in this crazy world where a million things are possible to go on any given day on this rock that's hurling in space at thousands of miles per hour? Is it possible that something happened to you that has caused you to say, I have to increase my level of urgency to get here?
Right.
And, but no, like, so like, if I had that perspective, I'm like, man, I hope everything's okay. I hope you get where you're going. I hope you're safe. Yeah. And I hope you can take care of whatever you need to take care of. My default reaction, 99.9% of the time, is like, what is this jerk doing?
My follow-up question is going to be like, have you ever actually done that? Like in the moment, somebody cuts you off. Somebody flies past you. Somebody comes right up on you. Yeah. Like you just like 99.9%.
A lot of times.
Dude.
Yeah. So, and it's great because when we have a partner in life that can kind of check us on it a little bit. Because my wife would always be like, why do you get so frustrated?
Yeah.
And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a great driver.
Right.
I make more people frustrated on the road than could ever frustrate me. So this is hypocritical too. Okay. I read this list. I read this list at the start and be like, I feel pretty good.
Right.
I'm not these things.
By the end of this episode,
I'm going to check off all 10. I've already said the F word that we don't say. Dang it.
Wow. But I also, what you just said is very interesting because I feel like that that is a very funny thing of where if I'm driving and I get mad, then my wife can totally come and be like, babe, it's not that big of a deal. What are you doing? Right. But if she's driving but then she'll get mad. And then I come in and try to be the reassuring one sometimes.
Does it work whenever you try to reassure? Yeah.
Hey, I don't think most of the time when she tries it works with me either because in that moment, I pride myself on my driving because I feel
which is crazy.
I feel like I'm the guy who, if we're in a zipper merge, I'm the guy I'm going to let you in front of me. I'm not going to.
Oh, you think you're a courteous driver?
Oh, absolutely. Like in certain situations. Why are you laughing at me?
Because I would love to pull. I'm just going to text a friend right now. And I'm going to say yes or no answer.
Which friend?
I'm going to ask a friend.
I know which friend.
I'll ask multiple friends just to prove this point. Okay. And be like, do you think Taylor is a courteous driver?
Okay.
Yes or no?
But context matters here. Am I a courteous driver to them? Am I a courteous driver to the people around me? Yes, it does matter. Context does matter.
I don't think this matters.
No, context matters.
Okay. For the sake of this example.
Yes.
I don't think it matters that much.
Wow.
I'm just going to say we should continue. I don't want this to be the kill because I feel like it's having a good conversation. I don't want to end it. And I can't do two things at once.
No, you're really bad multitasker. Just like in general.
Do you think
my God, he's actually doing it.
Taylor is
Are you
courteous driver?
Whoever you're texting is gonna respond with absolutely yes, 100%.
No.
I love Taylor's courtesy when he is driving.
I'm gonna copy this text so I don't have to do that multiple times. I'm gonna just send it.
All right. You know what? That's super cool. Right. No, I appreciate it. It's cool. It's totally.
So we were talking about empathy on the road.
Yeah, yes, empathy on the road. Well, that was just an example. We're really just talking about empathy in general.
Yeah. So I think that. And that really, if we were coming to like thinking about it like from a sense of like biblically, I would say when we talk about things like one of the things that always gets thrown out in Christianity is like the flesh.
Yes.
Like don't give in to your flesh.
Yes.
And would be like, what the heck is that?
Right.
And what does that mean? Because like I am flesh and bone. Like what are we talking about? But like that's the default reaction is, I think it comes from self-preservation as one, and also being like, why do you think you're so special that you get to go around? And so like it's just hard. It's hard. This is an example when you see somebody you doing something like that it's hard to respond immediately from a place of care for them because you only see this behavior that you think is selfish, and like you just not care about everybody else's experience.
I think that like going on this subject of flesh.
Okay.
Right? That's what I took from that.
Got you.
I mean, what you were saying was really good.
Let's go there.
I think this term flesh, don't give in to your flesh. Don't do these things, right? Thrown out a lot in church. Basically heard it my whole life. Like from different people. And I've always considered it like, I've always thought of it as this, like your first reaction or what you just do without really thinking. Like these urges that you have, you just do them. Okay. So it could be getting really mad at somebody who cut you off while you're driving down the road.
Right.
Or it could be, I am going to eat that ice cream sandwich, even though I know I probably should not eat said ice cream sandwich.
Sure.
Right. Or I know I should get up and like for me.
Or it could be the person that sees somebody in danger. And there are people out there, there's like, and hopefully like we all would aspire to be this in some way, that will just run to the situation to help.
Right.
Like their first reaction, like who they are is I'm getting involved.
Right.
Firemen.
Right. Police. Me, I like to be involved with stuff.
Yeah.
Just run into, whatever.
Danger.
Danger.
It's my middle name.
What? No,
No, go ahead.
But I think that flesh is this really interesting thing because I think it's something, like, I struggle with it a lot. And I think that a lot of other people struggle a lot with it too, just from having conversations with people. But, like, from my own benefit, like, my own situation, my own life, right? I know from, like, my experience in my situation, personally, right here, right now in life, I am going to have a better day if I wake up before 6 a.m. I get up, I pray, work out, I listen to worship music while I work out, read the Bible, take a shower, start my day before my kids have gotten out of bed, right? Before the rest of the world is up, like before the sunrise.
Yeah.
That's
a great feeling.
I know that I will have a better day if I do that. I give into my flesh a lot because I just won't do that. And I'll sleep until, 8 or 8:30 or 9 o'clock or whenever I'm going to sleep to. And I think it's this very, very interesting thing of like what 100% is best for me is to get up and do those things. Work out, eat breakfast, spend time with God. Like 1,000%.
Yeah.
But I don't do that nearly as much as I should. And I think I go in spurts and do it for like 2 weeks and then I don't. And then I'll do it again for like a week and then don't. And I think it's this weird thing of, I don't know, like, why do I make these decisions? Like, I know it's going to be better. I know it's going to be better. Why don't I just do it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think that it's like a lot of times we expect the things that are supposed to be good for us to be the fun, easy things. Like, no matter what, to do something, like to get your butt out of bed at 6 a.m., 5:45, whatever it is, there is a level of suck that goes into everything that is like, that is going to be good. It's true. I mean, it's true. Everything that's like, this is also like, we think, and we talk, like, people talk about peace and blessings, stuff like being a Christian, and this doesn't even have to be a Christian thing. Like, suffering is a part of developing and growing in any way, in any context. And I think that I would say, like, suffering is necessary for you to have the feeling that, like, the reward.
Right.
To have the reward, you need to, which this is also, I was about to say, to have the reward, you need to earn it, which is also the craziest thing about Christ. Because you don't have to earn it.
Right.
But everything in the physical, there is no, if you want to be in shape, if you want to have a goal of running, recently part of this experience of a goal of running a half marathon.
Right.
There is no way to get to that reward without suffering, without putting your shoes on when you don't want to, and just running the miles. And you're compounding your miles. You're compounding consistency.
Right.
And those incremental changes, they lead to.
Right.
Unless you're
David Goggins.
But no, he would say that he's done it for years.
No, absolutely. But like the first 100 mile that he ran, he wasn't suffering until the actual race.
The first marathon, yes.
Right. He's a different animal.
Different guy. But I think it's what we need to do. People want to flip, like, I know this is good for me, I just want to start doing it.
Right.
And then they have that full realization, but then they say, okay, I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to repent, right? Changing your mindset.
Yes.
And I'm going to start doing these things that I know are best for me. And then the first time they do it, or the second time or the third time they do it, they reach opposition.
Right.
And it becomes like, this doesn't, I was with you two trying to commit to be like, I'm going to start my day before anybody else in my family wakes up because I know that's the best thing for me.
Right.
Did really well for 3 days. The first night that my baby girl had a night where she was crying, more often sick or whatever. And I was up for multiple hours of the night. Waking up at 6 a.m. didn't feel that realistic.
Right.
And I was like, that's too hard.
Right.
Even though I know it'd still be good for me to do it, I
Right.
said, not tonight.
Right.
All of my circumstances that just happened to me,
Right.
that will allow me to take this one easy.
Right.
And so I just think that we have to come to terms with the reality that doing things that are best for us take effort,
Yeah.
discipline, and suck.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, and I think, this is one of those things, like, don't give in to your flesh, right? That we're kind of like going through is one of those. Would you agree that it's one of those things that's easier said than done?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
And we're also taught that everything, I think it's weird that it's like, this is a part of a context thing, but every time that's ever been used to me, it's been very negative. My flesh is always responsible for a very negative behavior.
You feel great in the moment sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like realistically, my physical body might feel better at 10 a.m. if I sleep until 8:30 instead of getting up at 5:30.
Sure.
Right? I might physically feel more refreshed, whatever. I think the whole thing with the point that I was going to here.
Just land the plane because I wasn't getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to land it here. Is how many other things, like, you could take this, everybody, but let's look in Christian world, right? People have a relationship with Jesus. How many things do people say or do that are a whole lot easier said than done and then don't accomplish them, which I think is where a lot of that list from the chat bot comes from, right? And I would actually, when I'm thinking through that list, a lot of those things basically had to do, in my opinion, with, like, I think the first one was hypocrisy.
Correct.
Right? I feel like a lot of those are just hypocrisy in one way or another of something that the Bible tells us to do, and then we don't do it.
Hypocrisy or disobedience.
Correct. Yes. Fair. Right? And how many other things I think are said even on Sundays? Like, you go into church service, you're listening to whoever your pastors speak, who, by the way, your pastor has the best intentions. Like, I'm not downplaying anyone.
Hopefully.
But, right. Hopefully. Fair enough. But all these things are so much easier said than done. And what do we do with that? Like, how do we actually get over that? Like, there are other things in the Bible that are thrown out there of being like the salt of the earth, and you go to all these different things in the Bible of laying your burdens at the foot of the cross, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? You go through all of these different things, which we could break down each one of those. Yeah. But you go through all of these things, and it's like they all make sense in my brain and in my mind and in my head, right? They all make sense, but they're all easier said than done, and I feel like a lot of times I choose not to do them sometimes. And
it also would require you to look at each one of those statements and actually say like, ask the question, like, what is actually being said? So when you say, lay your burdens down at the foot of the cross, like, what's being said? What do they mean? Right. Like, what does that look like?
Right. All right.
To do that.
Do you want me to answer?
Sure.
Want to answer?
Yeah. Get
me answer. Okay. Laying things at the foot of the cross. I think that I have had very specific moments in my life where I have actually done that. I don't think it's something. I think it goes like back. You said it a couple times with this peace thing of where I feel like laying something at the foot of the cross, giving your burdens, saying, I can't handle these myself. I need help. I need you, God, to come in, strength, power, grace, wisdom, courage, whatever it might be, to help me through this situation. And I feel like it's not that I've only done it a couple times. I think there are a certain number, a very specific number of times in my life where I can look back and go, I absolutely did that, and it showed up right there, and it was visible. And I felt like God came in and did something.
Yeah.
But I think that it's this thing of seeking peace, even through anxious times or stressful times or times when you're hurt or times when you're frustrated, times when you're angry, of being able to take these things to God and go, I release them, and I'm not going to hold on to them. I'm not going to hold on to blame or condemnation or judgment or shame. I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to sit here and listen to you. I'm going to wait for you. I'm going to spend time with you to get the answers for where I should go.
Yeah. Well, man. So a couple things. The first thing I would say breaking down is like, what are burdens in our lives? Like, so what is the thing that we're even laying down? Like, what are those things? And I mean, I think about like, what's giving me worry at any point in my life? What's causing me stress?
Right.
A lot of stuff we could talk for hours on.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with like identifying those things, and then what does it mean to put something at the foot of the cross? And really, I think even when you started talking and I asked the question, I started thinking like, well, what are the things I physically need to do? What does it look like to lay stuff down at the foot of the cross? Which if I can see it, so what does it look like? That's a behavior. So I'm looking for a behavior in myself that will prove that I am laying something down at the foot of the cross. And we started this conversation with a story, or with how Jason was started our sermon last night, his sermon last night. And he talked about, what do we think God wants from us?
Right.
And our default reaction as Christians in this world is behavior. It's, we think God wants to see something from us.
Right.
We think he wants to see a behavioral change first. And that's the thing I think that ultimately too, a big criticism of Christianity is like, get all your stuff together before you even think about walking through these doors. Right. Before you even think about raising your hand. Right. Coming down to the altar, whatever the ritual, the thing is going to be. It's turned off because people, they think that if I walk into this Christian church, I'm expected to have this behavioral consistency in my life, and they're probably more honest than a lot of us are, and they said like, I don't have that. Right. So that means I won't be welcome there. Right. But really what Jason landed on too is like, what God wants most from us is not a behavior.
Correct.
And he used a word that I immediately was uncomfortable with. And he knew that it was going to make people uncomfortable with. I would bet that most men in that room were uncomfortable with. He said Jesus wants intimacy with us. And I was like, whoa. What does that mean? I don't even, what does that look like? Do you want to talk about that? I mean,
we might as well keep going.
Yeah. What does intimacy look like?
Yeah.
I mean, we know what Jason kind of brought up too. I guess we have some jumping off point for that.
So here's the very interesting thing of, I would kind of, and none of these are dictionary.com definitions, by the way. Earlier, we were talking about empathy and, caring about someone, trying to put someone in this experience. And I would put like intimacy at like empathy, but like way more, like a step further.
Okay.
Is, God loves us in an unbelievable way that I don't feel like I'm able to comprehend the amount that as much as I in my life have pulled away and shoved away and not done things that I was supposed to, gave into my flesh, right? All of these things.
You're saying like I've done behaviors that make sense for God not to be like love me.
But I don't think that it's wrong for humans to do behaviors. I think that Right? Well, we need those things.
It's how you get there. So I believe Paul said in Romans, he said, like, how do you get to repentance or like the behavior? Like the goodness of God leads us to repentance.
Right.
The reason the law or Jesus came is because if the law could lead any of us to salvation, there would be no need for Jesus.
Correct.
But none of us could live up to that. The law can't create behavioral perfection in any of us except from Jesus. Go ahead, sorry.
But okay, pause for just a second, and then I will go back. The act of accepting Jesus, believing he came, died, rose again, repenting, receiving salvation, right? That is a behavior, though. Like, even if it's a mental one that we still have to go through. Like, we have, like, humans. God loves us way before we do that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it is a behavior for us because we have no other way to represent it. Like, I think that God desires intimacy, but for us as humans, being intimate is a behavior. It's being intentional. It's being very direct of it's like I've had this conversation with several people of back to the love thing of I don't feel like I understood unconditional love honestly and truly until I had my first child. And when my son was born in the hospital room, in that moment of he was just born and my wife was holding him and I was looking at him, and in my head, it was all this subconscious stuff, right? But it was, I will never not love you with all my heart. And I don't care what you do from this day forward, I will always love you. And I love you more than anything. And I was thinking these things, and then a couple of days later, I put it together of like, this is the closest that I can get to this unconditional love that the Father has for me. And I think doing our best to give that back to God in our worship and in our time and getting in the word, like that is what I would say.
Yeah.
Jesus, God is looking for that intimacy back from us.
Yeah. I think that it's less, but I think it's what drives the behavior. If we're doing a behavior for approval in anything, like, or for like, I think in our society, our culture, we have a lot of things that drive our behaviors. We want to do well at work. Why? Because we want to continue to get our paychecks. Success. We want to grow. We want a promotion. Right. And then hopefully the people that are really special in their jobs is like they care about the work that they're doing.
Right.
And then they're like superstars. Right. So I think there is a part, yes, like God, I think desires a close relationship with all of us, but he is giving us that no matter what. He is always sending that to us.
Correct.
When we dial into that love and that intimacy, that's negative or harmful or destructive patterns of behavior fall off.
Right. Faith without works is dead. You just explained it beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really not towards your salvation, or anything that would impact the way God looks at you.
Right.
But those behaviors are a natural response to what Jason would always say is radical grace.
Right.
And radical love.
Right.
Because kindness is infectious. Love is infectious.
Absolutely. Love
somebody well.
Right.
They'll return more often than not.
Right.
That will be returned to you.
I've always loved the whole kill them with kindness kind of thing. Like that saying. Because I think that a lot of the time, if you display kindness, you receive kindness back, right? But I also think it makes you feel really, really good when you show kindness and you don't get it back. And if you keep doing it, you stay in that, I'm going to kill him with kindness. I'm going to keep being kind and do these things. Right. Then it kind of like
it's a good
feels nice.
It's a good like kind of like health check to say to go into something like, you know what, this person, I know we have some sort of disagreement. We're not going to see eye to eye on this, but like I'm going to go in and just try to be kind. And I think that will give me the best opportunity to move the conversation forward. And so we go in and we're kind and we don't receive kindness back. If my immediate like kind of response to that is like, I knew this wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Heck with that guy or lady. Like, there's like, well, were you really being kind for the right reasons? And you could say, was that kindness at all? Or it's kind of like the sympathy thing, the sorry, not nearly as powerful as empathy. Was I really being kind, or was I kind of just being like, I don't know, playing the game.
Right.
And like that is like people see through that right away. It's just not genuine.
Right.
What's the word for like non-genuine kindness?
Non-genuine kindness, sarcasm.
Hmm.
I don't think that's actually it, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
If that's the opposite of kindness is sarcasm, that'd be a great one. Nice, bro.
That would be.
Nice.
That one just kind of flowed off the top. I don't know if I'm actually right or not.
Clip it.
It was there. It was
Good.
there.
Nice.
No, I really do, and I think it's also very interesting. I think that one of the big things that I thought from that sermon yesterday, and then even while we're sitting here talking now, of God desires this intimacy from us, with us. And now we're talking of this whole thing of like, this is in response to, it's not because I'm trying to earn, it's not because I'm trying to get something. It's in response to God's grace, his love for us, that our response can be, and what God desires from us is that intimacy, right? Of how, like, what does it look like for our response to God's love and his grace for us? What does that look like when we are intimate with other people? And how do we be those people on the earth of like,
yeah,
I'm going to be here for you, and I'm going to care about you, and I'm going to dig in, and I'm going to support you, and I'm going to love on you, and I'm going to like, how does that look? And what exactly does that look like? And does it look the same? Right? You shouldn't worship someone else, right? Worship God, but like that love that you have in those intimate moments.
That's the difference maker. I think when people see us, that's the thing that should be the difference. It shouldn't be that list of 10 things. They should look at the people like, we should be known for our love.
I agree.
And that's what Jesus said.
Yes.
That we brought it up in the last episode, but like, how will people know that you're followers of Christ? And they will know you by your love.
This is completely and utterly off topic. Not really. I'm going to relate it back. But today I cried for the first time in a very long time. And it was for a silly reason, to be completely honest with you, but it was amazing. There's a YouTuber named Mr. Beast.
You love this guy.
I do. I really do. He's the most subscribed to YouTuber on the planet. He's a genius, like, in multiple ways. He actually talked about On Flagrant with Andrew Schultz about faith, and he's like, I believe that there is a higher power, I just don't know what it is. But he put out a video today, and a lot of his videos are like giving away $100,000, or giving away $1 million, or giving away a car, he's giving away a private island. He's done all these crazy things, right? His thing today was that he helped over 1,000 people see again. So he had all these people who suffered with cataracts. Some people had developed it over their life, and some people had been born with it, of having this cloudy layer on your eye. And he paid for 1,000 of them, like over 1,000, to get that. It's a 10-minute surgery.
Wow.
To get that surgery done, and then recorded it. And then a lot of them, there was this young guy, was like 16 or 17 years old, had been born with it, couldn't see, got this. All of a sudden he can see, and he had never been able to drive before, and he really wanted to drive. So Mr. Beast bought him a car, bought him a brand new Tesla, so he would have a car that he could drive. And this other guy was like, haven't been able to see, haven't been able to work. And so he gave him just $10,000 in cash and paid for surgery and went on the way. And it wasn't just people. He's actually based down in North Carolina, but he did this in several other countries and did all. And then at the end of the video, like, donated, I don't know, $10,000 or $100,000 to like help more people have this 10-minute surgery. I saw him tweet today, and he was like, this is so dumb that like you can't just go get this for free. Everyone should be able to see. Yeah. But wow. I watched that video and I cried for the first time in a long time, because it was just like, he doesn't claim to be a Christian, and he's not acting out of like this love that comes from above for him. I would say that he doesn't believe that. Like,
Do you think? I don't know that we can even say that.
True.
Because he said, this is like an interesting conversation.
Yes.
That I'm sure someday we'll get into more. But this idea of somebody like that does something that generous, that caring, that thoughtful, and can have a conversation and be like, I believe there's more out there.
Right.
Like in his heart, like he saying like, there's got to be more to this. And it probably comes because he's been able to to participate and distribute that so many acts of kindness and generosity that is unmerited.
Correct.
Unmerited, unearned, just crazy, change your life kind of moments to people. So he's been able to do that. And I think that there might be something to the point where if you engage in that, like that is the heart of God.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you do that enough and you experience people's responses to that. I can understand why he'd be like, you know what, there is more, because he's seen it. That is what more is. He doesn't have the language yet, or maybe he never will. Who knows? But like, he doesn't have the language to put it as being like, I'm acting like Jesus, but he's 100% acting like how we would say like Jesus is portrayed in the gospel.
And you said that caring, that love is how we should be seen and not what's on that list.
Correct.
And it made me think of him because that is how I want to be seen. That's how I want my faith to be seen. That's how I would love to be defined in that way of being able to do these incredible things that people desperately need, right? And they just don't have the means or don't know where it is, or don't know how to get it or whatever it may be.
Well, they're stuck.
Right?
Yeah, they're just in a rut. They're in...
And now I'm thinking back to everything that we talked about of what does empathy look like for other people. And it's like, I just watched that video today and it's like, it's amazing. And he, like on that Andrew Schultz flagrant, if you haven't watched that,
I've watched part of that
Mr.
episode.
Beast,
I do love little Andrew Schultz in my life though.
He does. He also, he talks about like one day running for president, like as a joke, like in the podcast, Mr. Beast, and they're asking questions and he's like, yeah, what if I just made like $1 billion and then I ran for president and like my whole platform was like, I'm just going to give it all away and then actually do it. Like nobody could buy me. Nobody could give me any money because like I don't need the money, but I'm just going to give everything away and just do it. Like give all his money. Like this idea of this, I would call it extreme generosity, which is what I personally think we should all be aiming for because we've been given something extremely generous already and we should return that. But I don't even know why I said it like that. We should all aim for this extreme generosity that I think somebody like Mr. Beast is showing in an extravagant way. But, you know, I'm just thinking through this and all these things of empathy and what it looks like and how we get there.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say, like, we can operate in extreme generosity without the ability to pay for 1,000 people to have 100,000%. That's also the cool thing. And that's what even takes it to a different level. The scripture says, if you were faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. Yes. So like it's not so it's like
two little coins. She gave more.
2 shekels.
Yes. What was this?
Holding one. I was shining a shekel in each hand. You gotta have a clean shekel if you're only gonna have 2 of them. Keep them clean. But like thinking about like it's just operating in extreme generosity, which could be as simple as like noticing somebody that's struggling at a CVS, and like they can't, like you could impact somebody that has that is legally blind,
right,
or struggling. Like we see people struggling all the time. We would look a lot more like Jesus if we just acted generously to that person, whatever that is, whether that is buy them something or that's offer a hand. Yeah. Or, I mean, and that's also like, why isn't, it's not, we keep asking things like as questions.
I love it. Which keep going.
But like, no, I was going to say like, why isn't that our default? This is like we went back to about the example in the car, like our default reaction, the way we're hardwired kind of in this world is not to really to show care. Yeah. Maybe in the big moments, the big platforms, we can say, "Oh, I care about this thing and healthcare or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the smallest level, it's really hard to act in a caring way the majority of the time.
Right.
Because it's easier to, it's not even like saying like, not my problem, but that's kind of what I'm doing with my actions.
Right. So I would 100% say that we're just selfish. Yeah. I'm a selfish person. Like, I will say that. Sometimes, yes. I'm not all the time.
Actually, I'm a selfish person that sometimes shows selfless tendencies.
Hey, there it is. No, but like that initial reaction that we've been talking about, I would say that it's just selfishness. Like, I don't want to talk for everybody.
Well, no, I don't think.
But I think for me, it's just being selfish. And
it's healthy to admit that.
Yeah,
I really do think so, because that's like it's just real.
Yeah, like
nobody likes to say that about themselves.
For some reason, I don't know why we're going here now, but like, can we have a conversation about like when someone says, right, that like John 3:16, right, God gave His only begotten Son, like gave. And we talk about how extremely generous God is and how He's given and He gives us His love and He gives us, with Jesus, gave us salvation. We didn't have to earn it. We don't have to do anything for it. Like, can we have a conversation of like what, and Jason did this a little bit yesterday in his sermon, of like, what does that actually mean? Like, how much, like if we're talking about extreme generosity, right? We do measure that. As Mr. Beast paid for 1,000 people to get their eyes fixed and then gave away a couple $100,000 on top of that in the video, right? But from, honestly, my very little understanding of how much God has given, like, that pales. Like, it's not even close. Because for every single one of us, like, both of us have children. Could you imagine giving up Ruby for anything? No. I wouldn't give up. I have two sons. I wouldn't do that for anything. And like this idea of like, this is where it gets really crazy when I start thinking about these things, okay? Is that God did that.
Yeah.
The Father did that for people who are never, ever, 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 ever going to reciprocate or give any of that intimacy. He did it for them too.
100%.
Right? And so He, like, this complete undeserved.
And still loves them.
Absolutely.
Loves them. Like, that's the whole thing we even talked about. Like, people will see through something that's fake or one-sided. Or like, I only give this so that I get something in return.
Right.
If God is perfect love.
Right.
Which we don't believe He is.
Yes.
Like, that gift was given just out of love.
Yeah. And this idea of grace, salvation, these things, I do actually believe that they're too big and too much for our comprehension.
Yeah.
For us to actually fully comprehend. But I love, like, that's where my mind is now at in this, like,
well, that's why I love
what does it mean?
The conversation too. Because there are things about God, like, obviously, like, we can't grasp them. And it would feel better if we could. If we had all the answers, the black and white conversation, if we just had it all. When there was a point in my life around 17, 18 years old, I thought I had all the answers.
You thought you had it all.
Yeah.
Right. But you didn't.
But I didn't.
Right.
And it was 17 or 18 was easier.
Yeah.
When I had all the answers.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah.
Wasn't as full.
Right.
Wasn't close to as full of an experience.
Solomon.
I
had everything. He had everything. Every pleasure, every anything, the entire world he had, but it left him empty.
Yeah. So and that's what this podcast is, right? That's what these conversations are. We don't have the language or the box that we can put God in to contain him in His love.
Right.
And we'll never maybe fully understand it, but through conversations like this, we grow in our understanding. Or that's the goal.
Right.
And that's our intent in that, is that
Right.
we are growing in our knowledge and our experience of his love. That's why we continue to go to worship consistently and to go to church and to fellowship and have like just talk, because there is no arrival point.
Right.
I think in my understanding of God,
Right.
like my whole life will be hopefully growing in understanding and growing in intimacy.
Yes.
In relationship with him.
Yeah.
They.
Yeah.
And that's the journey, man.
Yeah.
That's what we're on. That's the ride.
Absolutely. So unless you have more to talk about, I feel like this is a really great place to kind of end this. I don't want to abruptly end it or like end it if there's still discussion.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a really good place to kind of like, let's give some closing remarks.
Yeah.
But start to wind down, because it's one of the, like so this is, I don't know when this is going to go up. Like if you're still here, we've been recording for over an hour. If you're still here, now we can really say whatever we want to say because they're still here. They've been listening to us, right? But this is the third episode that we've recorded. I don't actually know if it's going to be the third episode that's being put up. But we talked about how last week we recorded episode 1 and episode 2 like back to back. And we did that, and kind of after, there was almost like this, you use the word haze.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of this just like, I would call it peace. I would call this kind of peace, this kind of like fullness is what I felt.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Or
Well, I mean, that's going into a whole other conversation of what peace is, and
I agree.
I'm here.
I agree.
Here.
I agree. Which I think is why it's going to be
yeah.
great to do another episode in a minute, but why we should wind this one down.
Yeah.
Is the whole point.
I mean, I think that, I have that same kind of feeling. So hopefully that
right. I have it right now.
And we're learning that. I think
Yes.
And that's whether this stays in or not, but like
Yeah.
that's part of our process is
Yes.
we're still new to having these conversations in a recorded format.
Right.
So just learning. And I think at some point we'll be able to be there without having to say like, I don't want to stop this abruptly, but I'm going to stop this abruptly.
Right. And I have that right now.
Good.
And that's why I want to.
We need a code word.
Like
pineapples, like a safe
pineapple,
word.
pistachios.
But we could use a Christian word.
Right.
What would be a good Christian
Jesus.
word?
Wait, no, we can't.
No.
Use that.
That's the only time we'll mention Jesus on this podcast.
Right. It's at the very end. We're ready to end.
Jesus.
Right. But no, I want to say one thing to all the people out there is that if you are still listening right now, here on Kingdom Power tonight, I think we're getting, as we continue to go, we're going to get more and more comfortable. We're going to have more. And I think the conversation that we've had so far is like, honestly, you may feel, if you're still here, you don't feel like it's out of left field, but it was just like, this was how Cory and I talk. Right. And I loved every second of it.
And we totally a lot of this conversation is just
not planned
just
at all.
going.
It just went off. But I
great.
also want to say for anybody who is still listening that we talked, like several different issues were mentioned tonight, or several different, I'm not even gonna say issues, several different topics were mentioned tonight around homosexual, around all of these different things, around people being persecuted and different things. And I want you to know that if you're out there and you're listening to us now, like an hour in, that as this show continues to go on, we are going to have people on and talk about all of those things. Mm-hmm. We're not like shying away from it or hiding away from it or trying to like avoid those things. It's just, if we're going to talk about something like that, then I want to have someone here.
Yeah, we're going to honor that conversation.
Right. Who has more experience than we do, has more insight into that, so that we can sit here and ask questions and not sit here and ask each other questions of like, what does this actually mean? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I just want to throw that in there, but we still don't have a closing.
No, I mean, I love you, man.
I love you, man.
All right. Love you, everybody.
Play it. I don't know. Maybe we should have a little outro. Some music.
That's really like Sunday, all your people throw your hands up high.